Earth, a place filled with stunning sights, endless opportunities, and amazing people. But what if I told you this would all come to an end? Soon, in fact. We take a place we call home for granted, but our home is quickly deteriorating every single year. Climate change is heavily affecting the quality of our world and will eventually affect the quality of our life. Now, while climate change deniers are quick to say, seeing is believing, the reality is we are seeing and literally feeling the adverse effects of climate change. With that being said, we are going to take a look into the history behind climate change, politics and how they're downplaying the seriousness behind this issue, and the economical factors we are seeing now and what we can expect to see in the future. Now, climate change did not just happen overnight. This is an issue that has evolved and become worse over time. So let's go over a timeline of events. Since the 1800s, there have been experiments done to suggest that human-produced carbon dioxide, along with other factors, were insulating the Earth. According to History.com, by the late 1950s, there were CO2 readings to corroborate this global warming theory. It not only proved that global warming was real, but that it presented a host of dire consequences. By the late 1980s marked the first sharp increase in global temperatures. The first U.S. global agreement to reduce U.S. greenhouse gas emissions was called the Kyoto Protocol. It was adopted in 1997 and signed by President Bill Clinton. In March of 2001, George W. Bush announced to the United States that he would not be implementing this protocol as it was fatally flawed in fundamental ways. In 2015, Barack Obama announced the Paris Climate Agreement. Shortly after, in 2016, after Donald Trump took office, he announced that the U.S. would be withdrawing from this agreement as he could not in good conscience support a treaty that punished the United States. In 2018, Greta Thunberg, a teenager and climate activist, protested in front of the Swedish parliament for climate change. This took the world by storm, with over 17,000 students across 24 different countries protesting climate change. This would be just the beginning of the media coverage that climate change would need in order to make a difference. Now let's talk about politics, a topic we all hate talking about, but we have to when it comes to climate change due to the major influence it has had. Politics is one, if not the biggest issue with climate change due to the fact that the Democratic and Republican Party cannot come to an agreement. The Democratic Party is mostly associated with believing in climate change, while the Republican Party is mostly associated with not believing in climate change. This has left the two parties to feud with one another instead of coming together as a team and tackling this worldwide issue. According to the Center for Climate and Energy Solutions, the legislative, executive, and judicial branch all play roles in reducing the amount of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. Congress is responsible for putting laws into place that help build resilient communities. So as you can see, this is not a fight against each other, but a fight against the people running our Congress. We need to be making well thought out and informed decisions about the people we are electing into office, and we need to look at what laws they are wanting to put into place to help reverse the effects of climate change. According to a study done in 1997, the Democratic and Republican Party were about equal in agreeing that we were beginning to see the effects of global warming. Nearly 10 years later, the difference was 32%, with 74% of Democrats believing that we were seeing the effects of global warming and only 32% of Republicans agreeing. Now let's talk about the economical factors we are seeing now and what we can expect to see in the future. Within the past couple of years, we have seen increasingly fierce storms, specifically Category 5 hurricanes within the past consecutive 4 years. We have seen intensifying forest fires, massive bleaching of our coral reefs, and intense droughts, along with worsening floods and record high and low temperature changes. According to the New York Times, we could expect to shave off 11 to 14% of the United States economic output by the year 2050. Scientists predict that we will see a decrease in sea ice, an increase in heat waves, heavy precipitation, and this will be just the beginning of the effects that we will begin to see. This will make food scarce. Many people will be displaced from their homes, and it will be even harder to find a place to live, as the expected US population by 2050 is 438 million, with just now it being 329.5 million. Now, I hope that what I've talked to you about now will not only stay with you for the next 10 minutes, but for the next 10 years. We've gone over the history behind climate change, the politics and how they're downplaying the seriousness behind this issue, and the economical factors we are seeing now, and the economical factors we are seeing now, and what we can expect to see in the future, although our future isn't so far away. In 2050, you might think of flying cars or robots, but in 2050, I think of millions of helpless people struggling to survive in a world that is quickly deteriorating. Thank you for listening.